got a lot of different variety of weeds out there. We got some lamb's quarter, we got some cocklebur.
Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Liberty would kill the weeds, and our Liberty Link corn would continue to grow.
We got to be careful not to put Liberty chemical on a cornfield that isn't Liberty Link corn, or it'll just kill it.
I was wondering whether it's possible to make high fructose corn syrup in my home.
Well, 15.5% dry moisture, how efficient your separations are. Make it acidic, separate it in the wet milling process. 1% divided by 50, leave it there for a while, counterflow water wash on it. Once you pour off all that crap that you're going to have to do in the bottom, you're going to have to add water in, yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. Take care. Bye. Oh my goodness, that was a marathon. Alright, so step one apparently is soaking this corn in water that has been heated to 140 degrees. And we're also supposed to have put in sulfuric acid at 200 parts per million, which is a tiny parts per gallon.
0.0007.
So 7 it's not even close to a teaspoon. It's like you're gonna stick your finger in and whatever drop sticks to it.
No, man. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do that.
It's so much easier.
What we're looking for is yellow dent number 2. So it's already a certain type of corn that will yield a lot of starch.
Well, this is going to soak for 16 hours to get it soft and begin to separate the starch from the fiber. All right, day 2.
It smells sweet.
What does something sweet smell like? Sugar?
Yes.
There's a lot of technology, quote unquote, that goes into making corn sweetener.
All right, step 2. Physically damage the corn.
It doesn't look like a kernel anymore at the end of the process, but that is part of that innovative system.
The endoamylase and spezyme prime enzyme randomly hydrolases alpha-1,4 glucosidic bonds to reduce the viscosity of a gelatinized starch.
Everything really is a science when you boil it down. Everything really is a science when you boil it down.
Wow. That's pretty sweet. It's sweet.
It tastes good. Curtis and I are going to do a taste test on our corn to see how it's coming along, to see how it's tasting.
It looks good.
It looks great.
It's not very good, Ian.
Yeah.
It tastes like soda.
I think that looks like a nice corn porridge. Yeah, it's disgusting. It tastes like chalk.
I really thought it would taste better. Tastes like crap.
How did your crop come out then?
Well, we haven't harvested it yet, so we don't know how much
What the yield is?
what the yield is and stuff. But it from as far as I can tell, it looks like everybody else's corn. So
Yeah, it's standing up.
it's standing up and it's kind of yellow and hard. And I think our problem is figuring out what we want to do with it once we harvest it, because we've been out figuring out where it could go, and none of our options seem particularly attractive. And I'm not terribly impressed with.
And you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Should be impressed at the stupidity. We aren't growing quality. We're growing crap. Poorest quality crap the world's ever seen. We're growing it today.
You don't eat the corn that you grow?
No.
Not saying that I might not grind up a little bit for some cornmeal, but I basically don't.
I don't necessarily grow my corn for food. I don't care what's done with it. I'm selling it. It's the bottom line.
You don't think we have enough corn?
We've got lots of corn.
After the crop is delivered to the elevator, following corn into the food system becomes a game of probabilities. Of the 10,000 pounds of corn our acre is likely to produce, 32% will be either exported or turned into ethanol, in neither case ending up in our food or in our hair.
Ethanol.
But 490 pounds will become sweeteners, like high fructose corn syrup, and more than half our crop, a full 5,500 pounds, will be fed to animals to become meat. So while our corn matured in the field, we decided to look into its eventual fate and try to go where corn goes.
For each kernel of our corn turned into high fructose corn syrup, there's a nearly 70% chance it will end up sweetening a beverage, likely headed for a big city far from the Corn Belt. In Brooklyn, New York, about 139 million gallons of soda are consumed each year, sweetened by 20,000 acres of corn.
Boruga, Boruga, ¿cómo está Boruga? ¿Está lento la cosa o qué?
Así mero, así mero.
Yeah, right now we are at 5th Avenue and Park Slope, Brooklyn, New York.
And you grew up here?
Grew up right in this neighborhood. Was born in Methodist Hospital.
We've been growing this acre of corn in Iowa and trying to figure out where the corn will go when it leaves our farm. And so we've been following the story of corn syrup.
Tell you what, just stopping into a bodega and buying a bottle of soda. It doesn't matter if it's a Pepsi or Coke or it doesn't matter. Any soda product contains corn syrup. There's a soda, I don't know if they still have it out. It was called Colonial Grape. That had to be the sweetest grape soda I ever drank. I don't know if it had more sugar or more corn syrup than any other one, but I drank up to 2 liters a day, maybe more. My dad, he had a pain in his toe for over 6 months, and he found out he was diabetic that way. And they cut his big toe off. And before my father died, it went from his toe to his foot to below the knee to above the knee, and then they wanted to start cutting on the other leg. My dad said no, that was enough, and he just gave up. My mom died of a direct result of diabetes. My grandmother died of direct results of diabetes. My sister Madeline, she's been a diabetic for years. I was recently diagnosed with diabetes. We don't think of what we're putting into our system. We don't really think about it.
Nice to meet you. Diabetes essentially means that your blood sugar level in the blood is higher than what your pancreas can control and keep in the normal range. 1 in 8 New Yorkers have diabetes, which either is diagnosed or they don't know if they have diabetes and they remain undiagnosed.
Like, it's not like any other disease that we have where we just give prescriptions and that's the end of it, because it's not something that goes away.
Diabetes is a disease and obesity is a disease which is strongly linked to the environmental factor of food and exercise. What is the cheaper food for people? Okay, I think cost has a lot to do what people buy. The cheaper food is really not a healthy food.
And the main thing is sodas. Soda is liquid candy. And people think they're quenching their thirst drinking a glass of soda, but there you have a big, amount of sugar that you're drinking.
Everything we'd done on our acres since coming to Iowa had been designed to do one thing: grow as many bushels of corn as possible. What we hadn't realized was that what we were growing was essentially an acre of sugars.
We know some things just from the factual analytical standpoint about the corn which is grown in Iowa. It has been selected for high productivity. This means high volume starch production. Well, you never get something for nothing in the world of biophysics, and what you give up in the bargain is nutritional value.
Most of what we've done in agricultural so-called improvements and in food processing have actually degraded our food supply from a nutritional standpoint.
The corn that originally came north from Mexico was a grain with a higher protein content. But as corn was bred for higher productivity, the nature of the corn kernel was transformed.
What's happened is that increased yield has been mainly an expansion in the endosperm, or the starch fraction of the kernel of corn. And of course, now we're taking that starch and converting it to high fructose corn sweetener, which basically has no nutritional value, only adverse metabolic effects and empty calories.
We were growing an actual crop. It was destined to be eaten by actual people.
If you take that meal, you take that McDonald's meal, you don't realize it when you eat it, but you're eating corn. Beef has been corn-fed. Soda is corn. It's all high fructose corn syrup. That's the main ingredient. Even the French fries, which are, half the calories in the French fries come from the fat that they're fried in, and that fat is liable to be corn oil or soy oil. And so when you're at that McDonald's, you're eating Iowa food. Everything on your plate is corn.
Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty. Our corn seeds had been genetically modified to resist an herbicide called Liberty.